105.1 and 105.3 FM.
Well, for one, I'm really happy for this next segment that we have coming up, because sometimes it's the little things that no one ever tells you. And we have a pandemic, right, that has presented unforeseen challenges for us. It, though, has also been a time to identify new and emerging opportunities. Small businesses in certain industries have been negatively impacted by COVID-19, but others have held steady and even have experienced growth. The savvy entrepreneur is always looking for an opportunity to acquire a new business. Should you start that new business or buy an existing one? What does buying a business even entail? So to help us navigate this topic, we are joined by senior partner at DunnCox Attorneys-at-Law, Jerome Lee. Top of the morning to you, sir.
Hi, Deon.
Hi, top of the morning. Welcome to The Edge. And we're going to ask you to start off by telling us the process of buying a business.
Well, Deon, to you and your listeners, one place to begin is to identify the business. It could be a grocery shop, a restaurant, a pharmacy, a clothing store, a bar, or any other enterprise. It could be on the market that is up for sale, or the owner could have to be approached to find out if he's willing to sell, how it is to be sold, and if so, at what price. I should mention that generally, a sale of a business can be done in two ways: as an asset sale or as a sale of shares. After that, the next step would be to do due diligence.
We are joined this morning by senior partner at DunnCox Attorneys-at-Law, Jerome Lee. And remember, you can call us with your questions at 876-906-9559. You may also send us via WhatsApp at 876-383-1166. So tell me, Jerome, is it better to buy a business than to start a business?
Well, the advantages of buying a business include that the buyer hits the ground running with a ready-made enterprise as a going concern, with an established location, operating system in place, and an existing customer base, together with a known financial track record. On the other hand, the initial financial outlay to buy may be much larger, as it would include goodwill, and the buyer would not be able to build the business slowly from scratch over time as capital becomes available. In addition, the fixtures and equipment may have hidden defects, and the stock may be obsolete or be past their expiry date, which is not discovered until after the sale. This is the reason that due diligence is so important.
And you know what? Some people, old-time people used to frustrate me sometimes, because they tell you, do your due diligence. What is due diligence?
Well, due diligence is the process where the buyer gathers as much detail as to the business and its background, its operation, the prospects, to enable a considered decision to be made as to whether to buy and also the price of the business. If you are familiar with the business, say as an employee or customer, you would still need to do due diligence, and even more so if you're a stranger to the business.
And if your due diligence is satisfactory, then what comes next?
Well, the price is perhaps the single most important item for the seller and buyer to agree. Driving this would be the value of the fixtures and equipment, the stock in trade, the goodwill, and the location. That is, its sale price or the rent of the premises. If the location is critical, the buyer needs to ensure it is secured, whether by purchasing it or arranging with the landlord to continue renting the premises for the buyer, for the business to continue there.
So we're looking at the buying. What about funding? Is funding an important consideration?
It most definitely is. If the buyer has available financial resources, that's an easy answer. Otherwise, the buyer will have to seek financial assistance from other sources like family and friends, from a bank or other financial institution, or from business investors and partners. Failing those, or even with a mixture, the buyer could try and negotiate a payment of the price to the seller by installment over a period of time, say 6 to 12 months.
And let me just remind you again, if there's anyone wanting to send in questions, you can send your WhatsApp question, 876-383-1166. We do have our lines open for you, 876-906-9559. You may call us with your questions as well. You have access to get your question answered today from our guest. Our special guest this morning is Senior Partner at DunnCox Attorneys-at-Law, Jerome Lee. We're looking at buying a business. What debts owed by the business to suppliers and money owed to the business by customers? What about those?
Well, if it is an asset sale, the debts owed by the business and the monies owed to the business need not be a part of the asset sale, although the parties can agree otherwise. If it is a sale of shares, the debts owed by the business and the monies owed to the business usually form a part of the sale, and the buyer assumes responsibility for them.
And does the seller have any part to play after the sale of the business?
Sometimes the parties agree to a transition where the seller is present in the business for a short period, say 3 to 6 months, to allow the buyer to settle in and to be introduced to the customers and the suppliers of the business. Also, the parties may agree on a non-compete provision whereby the seller agrees not to open a similar business competing with the buyer for a period of, say, 2 years.
Mm-hmm. And out clauses, is it good to have an out clause if you're buying a business?
Well, yes, because you can, come out before, but once the business is completed, the transaction is completed, you can't come out after that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just so everybody knows, okay? All right, last question for you this morning, Jerome. Any hashtag did you know tip for us this morning?
Well, I don't know if you call it a hashtag, but I have something which I think is important to us in life and even more so in business. I'd say ambition and diligence are good drivers for business.
Ooh, ambition and diligence are good drivers for business. I love that. I love that. I know that our listeners have been busy pen to paper this morning and taping and listening in. Thank you so very much for your insight. Senior Partner at DunnCox Attorneys-at-Law, Jerome Lee, our guest this morning for the legal landscape. And our topic this morning was buying a business. Top of the morning to you, sir. Thank you for putting us on top of the buying the business field.
Thanks for having me.
A pleasure, a pleasure. It is 9.5 minutes past 8. Top of the morning to you on the edge, 105.1, 105.3. Remember, it's all about ambition and diligence this morning, tying them together.